Hey everybody, welcome. We're about to kick off the general session for Sumo Logic Illuminate 2022. This is a deep dive on our product set. It's Tej and Bruno and Dave really talking about what we're doing in the core platform and how we're expanding it to solve all of your observability challenges as well as your security challenges. So buckle up and enjoy. A couple reminders, hit the Slack button in the corner of the virtual platform. That way you can engage in real time while the presentation is going on. Second thing is, when this is done, dive into those catalogs of the on-demand sessions and go deeper in the topics that you want. We've really curated a number of playlists and other ways for you to get the richest content on demand. Enjoy the keynote.
Hey, I'm Tej Redkar. I'm the Chief Product Officer here, and I've been here for 90 days now. And I've been a Sumo customer in the past. So I'll be covering how my team and I have used Sumo in the past few years. As well as we have a couple of other great presenters, Bruno, who's going to share with us the observability landscape of Sumo, and then Dave Frampton, who's going to talk about the security landscape and how we are bringing all of these together into one platform for building a reliable and security platform that can help make your digital experiences reliable and secure. So every person has a journey, has a career journey. So I want to share my career journey with you so that you can relate to that and how cloud and observability and security and reliability has come together for me across various phases of my life. So I started out in my career as a builder, as a developer. So my complete focus was building reliable software and understood the security development lifecycle of the software in big, large cloud platforms like Azure. And then as I started to learn more about that, and as cloud and mobile and all these things picked up, I realized that it was not just about building great software. It was also operating great software. So I started looking at how can I really enhance my career, and also look at how I can use different tools and products and platforms available to really make a great product that is reliable and secure. So along that journey, I met Sumo. And Sumo has been a core part of my team all the way in the past 3 to 5 years in really building that great, reliable, and secure software that's global. Yeah, so at one point, we were ingesting trillions of logs and really analyzing those logs across different personas, across different functions in the business. And we were not just using it as a logs platform, but really the crucial heart of our reliability and security, because we had multiple personas really looking at different angles of the data. Right? So as a product manager, the product management team was looking at, okay, how are customers using the product? The developers were involved in troubleshooting. Right? So they were on call, but every time there was an issue, they used to turn to Sumo. Right? And then the SRE team, who used to really manage the entire platform, they really looked at using Sumo in understanding the health of the overall platform and enabling developers to really use the platform efficiently. And finally, the CISO, which I incubated in one of the previous companies, they also started using Sumo to really understand the entire flow of how users were using the product, where were the IP addresses, what were the threats. So it was all collaboration done on just one platform. And that's when I realized that, hey, this is the platform that I want to bet my career on. Now, taking a step back, if you look at the failure landscape of your application today, right, your digital applications, it's not easy, right? A lot of the people don't even know the architecture of their platform. There's so many different moving parts, so many things that can fail. And at the same time, if you look at the different threat surfaces that you have in your application, it's just difficult to humanly analyze. So when you look at this and relate that to your personas who are actually looking at and monitoring your platform, it's very hard for them if you have multiple of these tools and they have to transition from one tool to another for a workflow to really troubleshoot the problem. So what I've learned in my career is to centralize. right? So centralize your logs, your metrics, your traces into one platform and really enable your teams to troubleshoot those challenges, those threats, and to really make sure that they understand the workflow end to end and they can act on it proactively rather than being on call all the time. So what I mean to say is reliability and security are two sides of the same coin. Because if you look at the failure landscape, the data that's needed to really understand whether your application is reliable or secure is pretty much the same. It's just a different view of the data, different personas analyzing the data. And those are the insights from that data that really matter, right? So at Sumo, we really focus on those analytics and data insights that we gather from different aspects of your application. Now, when you think of this as a continuum, right? Think of reliability as a continuum that you're constantly looking at solving and proactively solving the problems that you may face in the future, as well as reactively looking at what's happening. There's so many things that can go bad, right? The mobile application failures, your data center can go down, your cloud storage can hit an IO bottleneck, your user's Wi-Fi may go down. But when the users complain, you really need to understand that where is actually the problem. The troubleshooting itself takes a lot of time. And then you stitch that to the security continuum, right? In understanding who are all the users who are accessing the application? Are they authorized? Are they authenticated? Do you have any open areas within your application architecture that are open to the world that shouldn't be? So all those things are actually related and form a continuum for your reliability and security of your cloud native app. So at Sumo, we really look at this as a data and analytics problem rather than logs or metrics and traces. So those are really the collection mechanism, the data sets that we collect into the platform. But the real magic happens when the analytics engine kicks in, right? We have several different pipelines that are constantly analyzing this data and really providing you with insights at different persona levels. And we have different users who have created their custom dashboards, have created custom ingestion in really understanding the reliability and health of the entire platform. So all these different data sets we collect and we ingest globally into our SaaS platform. And then we really run our analytics engines and then provide you with insights. Now, you can see we are bringing the security and reliability aspects of all the assets that we have into one unified experience. So when you think of Sumo as a platform for reliability and security, think of it as a continuum. It's not multiple products. So we are focused on bringing all these data sets together from your application, from your infrastructure, and from your security vectors, and providing you with those insights. So think of us as a partner who is really working hard in building a centralized platform to build that continuum of workflows for all your personas. So now when we look at reliability and security in different views, observability comes to your mind, right? So do you have visibility across your applications and infrastructures and clouds? So the comprehensive analytics platform that we have just for observability, we really ingest metrics, traces, logs, and provide you with those insights and query engines so that it's not just on the dashboard and metrics side, we also really help you analyze not just what is happening, but where it is happening and why it is happening to really troubleshoot your application end to end. And then the next part is bringing all the security data into the platform. And a lot of this data is relatively same, right? But the insights and the views that different personas require are different. So on the security front, we have a SIM product that you can pretty much send any corporate and application data to really understand the distribution of your data across all the record sets that are coming in, and then the signals, right? And then finally the insights, which really tell you what is happening and what might happen in the future, right? So that might happen is extremely important because you want to avoid failures rather than be reactive to it. And our acquisition of DF Labs is also coming to fruition because that is our automation and remediation platform. Because if you look at the whole analytics ecosystem in general, right? So the data and analytics can provide you with only what you can do. But the automation and remediation products can really drive automation and autonomic computing workflows in your environment so that you don't have to constantly react, but you can automate some of these workflows that have been in the system for over and over again, and eventually leading to a self-healing enterprise. So I wanted to share our product horizons, which are really designed to correlate with how you are thinking about your applications, right? So the first phase of our product is bringing that multi-product experience of reliability and security, observability, SIM, SOAR, all of that together so that you can have that continuum. The next phase of that is a unified experience. That means all the personas within your organizations who are looking at your application, they can collaborate efficiently, effectively, and seamlessly. And then the third phase is, as I mentioned earlier, I'm intrigued by autonomic computing. What that means is your application should be self-configuring, self-optimizing, self-healing, and self-protecting. And we want to build a system. We want to build a product that allows you to do that, right? So next, I will welcome Bruno, who will tell us about the amazing observability products that we are building. Thank you.
Thank you, Tej. I'm very excited to have you on board. Hello, everybody. I'm Bruno. I'm founding Chief Strategy Officer, and we're going to spend a little bit of time now talking about our observability products, whose purpose really is to help you deliver reliable, mission-critical applications. As enterprises digitize and participate in digital business models, they essentially become software companies. They build applications, and those applications become the primary interface with their customers. Those applications take many forms. They could be the product themselves, like an online game, or they could be a vehicle to deliver a product, like a media app that delivers a news article, which is the product. Or they could be embedded in a physical device, like a home automation technology that makes your life at your house better. Interesting point of data from Sumo is that about 90% of data that is sent to our platform, that is collected from our customers, is actually originated from those applications and their underlying infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, it's things like Apache and Cassandra and Kafka and cloud services, but majority is actually coming from the actual application built by you, our customers. What's interesting about that is that these applications are today, in a digital world, the way that we compete. We depend on them to get new customers. We depend on them to interface with our customers, and they therefore have to be reliable, because customers are fickle in digital. We live in a virtual world, and switching from one app to another is much easier than, driving down a freeway and finding a different store if you didn't like the previous one. So reliability is a mission-critical property of any digital service and application. And we are in that business with you. Our observability product is built to help you deliver reliable, mission-critical applications to your customers. We have focused our product development in this area to help you do that better, to help you achieve the goals of your business in an easier way, and to be more productive as engineering and development teams. I'm very excited to announce that we are going general availability with a product we call Reliability Management, whose whole purpose is to actually help you figure out how to build reliable applications. The challenge with reliability is that it's really hard to figure out what it is, right? Is your application reliable if one of your nodes goes down unexpectedly? Is your application reliable or unreliable if a database node latency is not right? It's hard to say, right? But new methodologies have been evolving to help us determine what we should be focusing on. And reliability management capabilities are focused to help you identify reliability as it is coming from your users, to isolate indicators service level indicators, to set objectives, service level objectives, and create error budgets that helps you build a system that monitors reliability and manages reliability in such a way that reflects most how your users experience your application. It also facilitates a conversation with the business, right? Service level objectives, indicators, and error budgets help you create a language between you and your business, between the technologists and business people, to align what they should be focused on as they build the application and as they serve their users. So we're super excited to share with you this capability that enables you to define service level indicators, to define service level objectives, and to define error budgets that helps you manage the reliability of your application, and also helps you trend it so you can understand whether you are improving or if you are degrading in your objectives. It also, all of this data that's generated by our system once you define these objectives and indicators flows into our system as logs, and then you can perform full analytics on top of it using our powerful query language. You can build dashboards, you can build alerts, and really helps you optimize how you work towards achieving better reliability for your customers. We're super excited about this capability. We want you to use it. It is going to be available during this conference, and I really look forward to feedback on this capability from you guys as you start adopting it. Let's move on. Our platform collects a lot of data, and this data has many uses. Over time, our platform has evolved to help many people do their jobs on a daily basis. On a very macro level, our platform serves customers who use us for some 7 or 8 very distinct uses of the platform. Those are things like troubleshooting with logs, or monitoring, or transaction management with our APM or traces, or threat detection with SIM, or its compliance reporting with our security analytics. So there are many distinct uses of our platform. What's interesting is that about 50% of our customers use us across these 2 core product areas of observability and security, and that's growing. But what's challenging about that, as our customers adopt this platform to do their jobs, is that we're coming from a world where we were using multiple different products who needed different formats, who collected different data sets. And that's created a complexity that there is no standard way of looking at this data. It causes issues for our customers. It's hard and inflexible. You can't really easily switch tools, right? It's not just about switching a tool, it's also about switching the methodology that you've implemented in order to switch to that tool. So that's a problem. That's one of the reasons why we have actually, early on in the development of our observability stack, focused on a standard that was emerging. We were one of the first vendors to support OpenTelemetry as a standard before it was even called OpenTelemetry. And we are today a founding member of the Logging SIG, and Christian Biedgen, my partner in crime and our CTO, is our representative on the Logging SIG. And nobody knows logs like Christian. And nobody. Some say he dreams in logs. So what we've done in our platform is we've built this platform that is really focused on the standard, because we want you to be able to use our platform, not have to worry about formats, not have to think about which format should I use, but essentially leverage a very well-adopted, supported standard. And if you send it to Sumo, it will work. One of the examples of that is our recent release of our Sumo Logic OpenTelemetry distribution. It is the future of our collection. Why? Because it reduces complexity, right? Single agent to collect everything. Logs, metrics, traces, metadata, supports different ways of collecting those data sets. It is very broadly adopted. It supports many platforms, x86, 64 ARM, all of that stuff. It is much more efficient than the existing collection methods and existing technologies, open source and otherwise out there. For example, it processes 10 times more data at half of the resource utilization than some of the open source tools we use to ship our platform with. And we are going to bet all of our future collection on our OpenTelemetry distro. We're super excited about it. It is ready for use. Many of you could use it today. It doesn't support every format and every collection method that's coming, but for many of you today, it will be sufficient, and you can consolidate all of your collection into a single standards-based open source agent. But OpenTelemetry is not just about collection. It is about how data is shaped so that products and platforms can make it useful. So you don't have to worry about parsing and structuring and things like that. One of the other example of that is our real user monitoring capability. Our RUM capability, which we released a couple times, and there's a new version of it coming in the time that you see this video during this conference, our RUM 2.0, was built to emit data from the browser in OpenTelemetry format. Why? So that once we receive it, a transaction that spans the front end and the back end, the user's behavior and user's experience, all the way to the behavior of your back end, can show up in a single trace view as a single transaction, so that when you receive it, you know exactly what's affecting what, right? It's super exciting because you can see everything all the way up to the browser in your trace view. And not only that, we are focusing on delivering mobile RUM. That's on our roadmap. And then you will be able to do that for mobile apps as well. Also, our Lambda transaction monitoring was built in the same way. Actually, was built in collaboration with AWS, who is also now fully on board OpenTelemetry, which is super exciting. And not just them, but also Microsoft Azure and many other large companies. We built our Lambda transaction management system, emitting OpenTelemetry formatted information to be captured. And now when you look at your Lambda execution inside Sumo, it shows up, guess where? In the trace view. It can be serverless or mixed environments. So no matter where your data about your transaction is coming from, it can be seen inside of our single view of transaction management and our trace view. Super excited about that. If you didn't know about this, now you know. I really look forward to you using it. Moving on. All of these use cases that our customers do with Sumo bring in different sets of users. Many different users now participate on our platform. I actually counted 8 distinctive persona groups that are appearing as groups of users in our platform frequently. And those are people like developers, compliance auditors, SREs, SOC administrators, you name it. That's fantastic. We're super excited about that. Many of you watching this today belong to some of these groups. But these groups of people, if you were in an audience, you'd be sitting next to each other, you all have different requirements, different skill levels, different technical acumen, different preferences, different modes of working, which creates a challenge to deliver the right user experience for all these personas, right? Yes, it's true, 70% of you are developers, but even those developers have varied personas. An SRE, cloud architect, a senior engineer might have different ways of and preferences of working. So building the right user experience is non-trivial. And because you do multiple different jobs with our platform, things like you deploy Sumo Logic, you configure it, you respond to incidents, you troubleshoot, you monitor. All of those things also have to be thought about as you deliver the right experience. So we've been working with both a persona view as well as a job view to deliver the right capabilities so that you can get your job done better. For example, for our developers and people who deploy our technology into their stacks and architectures, we recently released a good example of this, which is our Kubernetes onboarding improvement for our Kubernetes solution. Used to be a long, protracted process of many different steps. Now is a very streamlined command line interface that essentially has only 3 steps. It deploys everything we built, all components. All you need to do is you install the repo, you decide whether you want the monitors or not, and you execute the command that was generated. And that, with the intelligent defaults, deploys our dashboards, our collectors, configures everything, and boom, up comes our Kubernetes solution. Dramatically better experience for people deploying it. And we do this through a Terraform provider we built for this, right? And that helps you manage your observability stack through your well-understood, well-adopted config as code technologies like Terraform. In fact, that's not the only thing we're doing with Terraform. We are betting on Terraform to be the technology that helps us get these technologies easy to deploy and manage and configure to our development community and our administrators. In fact, over the last 12 to 18 months, we've added 63 artifacts to our Terraform provider so that you can configure many, many, many things in Sumo. And we're going to continue to expand that so that we can add essentially anything you can do in the UI, anything you can do with our platform to be also doable through Terraform. But that's not all. We don't just deploy Sumo, we also use Sumo. About 2.5 years ago, when we launched our observability stack, we came up with a model called the entity model, whose purpose was really to help the navigation, in-product navigation. So when you're going through monitoring and troubleshooting and you're going from, hey, I'm having an indicator that something's not right here, and that runs on this node, and that node runs these services, and this is this in this cluster, in this AWS zone. Prior to this entity model, everything had to be done manually by you, right? You had to build your own dashboards. You had to go and configure them. When you click on this thing, then you will go there, and then when you click on this thing here, it'll go into logs, all of that. With our entity model, we auto-discover components, we understand their relationships, we can then build, and we have built, a navigation system, a workflow that helps you go from A to Z with clicks of a button rather than having to do a bunch of jumping through hoops. And we have expanded that entity model to add databases as a first-class citizen. So now, and not just can you see your Kubernetes nodes and clusters and AWS services and all that, you can now see your databases right in the entity model, right? In context, we can now navigate to them. We can open up dashboards from our apps that refer to them in order to help you easier navigate through your infrastructure as you're troubleshooting and monitoring. And, also, you don't only monitor and troubleshoot, you also respond to incidents, right? One would argue that that's probably the most important thing that you do in Sumo. Something happens, gotta go fix that thing, right? How do you know that something happens? One, you get alerts. One of the common issues that people face in alerting is that they get floods of alerts, tsunamis of alerts. In fact, our SIM product was, an innovative technology that tried to reduce the tsunami of alerts. And we're trying to sort of figure out some of that and bring that to our observability technology as well. So we've just built an alert grouping capability. What does alert grouping do? It helps you define specific types of alerts and then say, I don't want to receive more than one of these per service, or more than one of these per service per node, right? It helps you get an alert and then stop all the rest of them, because when you start getting alert floods, it actually is disruptive during the troubleshooting process and remediation process. So that is available, and I look forward to getting feedback from you guys on using this capability. Usability, it's so important. Other ways of improving usability is by adding out-of-the-box content, right? It's simple. Everybody knows that that's the way to go. We've been doing it for years, but there's a lot of work. There's a lot of content that needs to be built, right? And we've been kind of stepping on the gas and delivering a lot of out-of-the-box content for you. We're updating the existing content, like we're updating our apps, like for Nginx, IIS, Oracle, continuously. That's an ongoing process. There's a bunch of them that have been updated this year. But we've also added new things, new exciting things. Like, for example, we now have a cloud-to-cloud real-time GCP metrics collection. The app for that is coming, but you can now, through a giant pipe between clouds, get this data from your GCP deployments into your Sumo account. We've also added an AWS cost app, which isn't concerned about how AWS is running. It's concerned about how much it's costing you, right? It allows you to actually monitor the cost of AWS services to help you not just optimize sizes of clusters based on what you think about how many nodes you might have, but also how much you're spending. It's exciting, really exciting stuff. And lots of others that are really, we're continuously announcing these. So just pay attention to our release notes and you'll get a lot of new content. And that's not the last thing, ultimately, scalability of our service is something that dramatically impacts user experience, right? If we were to be slow or had delays in processing your data, that would really result in poor user experience for your users and poor experience for people using Sumo. So we've been diligently working on this since we founded the company in 2010. And in fact, we've been most proud of our scalability. We have a multi-tenant cloud-native service. The largest online game in the world runs on Sumo. Several Super Bowls have run on Sumo. And we want to continue to earn the right to play in that big game. So we've just spent a bunch of effort on 10x increasing our tracing limits, increasing the retention of those traces. We've dramatically increased cardinality of alerts and cardinality of our queries. We've improved the latency of our metrics alerts to all execute from the time when we receive a metric to a time we alert you to less than 60 seconds. We improve our fault isolation. We continue to do work in this area in order to deliver a better, more scalable service to you. Best thing about this is that all of this is available today, other than the couple of things that I mentioned that are coming. You can use all of these today. Most of you are probably using us more for logs than other things, but I really want you to start adopting some of these new technologies, the full observability stack, in order to improve how you deliver reliability to your mission-critical applications and to your users. Now I'm going to welcome Dave Frampton, our GM of our security business unit, to tell you more about our security products.
Thank you, Bruno.
Welcome.
As Bruno said, I'm Dave Frampton, General Manager of the security business at Sumo. And today in this section, I'm going to walk you through our security portfolio, but try to do it in the context of a concrete use case and really speak to the convergence of observability and security and the modern application security dimensions that Bruno and Tej have already talked about. So today we'll break this into four sections. First, just lens out before we dive into the product capabilities. We'll talk about your top level concerns that you've expressed to us in our hundreds of sessions that we have with you to talk through roadmap and how you can leverage the platform. Then I'll walk through a screenshot use case that'll walk through the capabilities of all the aspects of our security portfolio. And if you're interested in a deeper dive in that, because I'll be pretty high level here, there's a separate session that really unpacks this in a lot more detail. So don't worry if you feel like it's breathing through pretty quick. Then we'll look ahead at some upcoming betas where you can give valuable customer input. So we have four of those to give you a preview on. And then finally, we'll lens back out to this big convergence in the new threat surface in digital experiences and how that relates to some of the core security operations that you're executing today. What you shared with us. So if you start from the left, clearly in the security industry, automation, machine learning, advanced analytics, these are the tools that we're trying to leverage to help the defense close the gap relative to the attackers. But there's been a tremendous amount of complexity introduced and a little bit of hype cycle introduced in these new technologies. So one of the things that you've told us is, hey, help us make this more consumable and more operational. And so that is top of mind for us as we go through the development of our products, and you'll see some of those themes and the things that I'm going to share in a little bit. Second, we keep talking about this new threat surface from these modern applications developed as part of your digital transformation initiatives. This is expanded now to encompass the entire life cycle of application development. There are new tools, new personas that both Bruno and Tej alluded to, how to leverage our security domain knowledge and best practices to these new personas, how to unify security for the enterprise is also a top of mind concern, particularly as people look forward as to what's coming in the next couple of years. Third, scale and economics. All of you are facing challenges with the vast amount of data that needs to go into these security systems, the economics of how do you afford that, but also the scalability and the performance of searching and streaming analytics. So we're constantly checking ourselves in those two metrics as we bring new capabilities into the portfolio. And then finally, on the right side, we all realize we can't go it alone here. It's one of the ironies of the security industry that the attackers who are distributed and have no leader somehow can coordinate and share better than the defenders, right? So we all understand the potential intuitively of collectivized defense, but the early efforts have not really achieved the impact that people have hoped. So we're spending a lot of energy trying to think about how do we scale community input so that you can benefit from the experiences of everyone else who uses our service as you're trying to optimize your own defense. So keep these four in mind. This probably governs about 80% of our thought process as we get down into the individual features and capabilities. So now we'll transition into this walkthrough. This is about 8 screenshots here that highlight different capabilities as we walk through a use case. It should be familiar to security practitioners in the audience. This is a widely publicized new piece of malware targeting the AWS Lambda service for serverless computing. As noted on the slide here, I mean, this is a key component that's used in the development of all of these cloud-native applications that we've been talking about. So it's a perfect kind of test case that shows a little bit how security and observability start to munge together while also highlighting the core security capabilities as we go through. So let's start just with the basic holistic visibility and monitoring. What you're seeing is a screenshot here of our AWS Observability app. And this brings together not only visibility that you can see highlighted here, but also the ability to quickly navigate across all of the AWS services. Double click, drill in, we'll do that in a couple of slides, but it's a great holistic one-stop shop, not only to show Lambda, which we're going to be interested in here, but how the Lambda service is in context with all the rest of the AWS services. And this is actually a great example of where both the security practitioners as well as the application teams, SRE, DevOps, all the teams that Bruno talked about would be using this as kind of like a common hub of visibility. So next we sort of get into this, the flow of the use case and how people might have responded to this as they start to think about, okay, I saw this malware published, am I vulnerable here in my specific environment? So you might start by just drilling into Lambda and looking at basic resource utilization. This is a type of thing that can provide a signal. It's usually a weak signal. So on its own, it's not enough to really send off the high alarm, but this would give you a place to start and realize there is a weak signal here. So now I want to take a little bit deeper look here. And so in the next slide, we can see as you start to double click and look at the Lambda service from a threat lens, you can start to see that our Cloud SIEM enterprise in the background has been automatically correlating all of the data together and has identified that it isn't just this weak signal about a memory utilization spike, but it's also some other signals that have given us a risk aggregation that says, hey, now there's an insight. Now there's something that someone really needs to pay attention to. And the interesting part about this is going on in the background. This is visible to maybe an observability, DevOps oriented person, but it also showed up in the core SOC on the list of all of the alerts in Cloud SIEM Enterprise. So then if you drill down a little bit further, you can see in the middle of the screen there, you see not just this memory spike, but you see 3 other signals that were identified and automatically correlated by our system in the back end. And the user interface you're seeing now is our core Cloud SIEM Enterprise. This would be something that you could go into from the observability side or in the core SOC. You're seeing access to a user account from a malicious IP, first-time usage, unauthorized usage. Turns out this malware is not the type that's self-propagating, so it depends on having a compromised user account. And so our system has more or less with out-of-the-box type content, it's already identified, connected all of these dots together and said, actually, there is something you should worry about here. You've possibly been compromised by this malware that's just been publicized. One step further, back to this theme earlier about the community analytics and not going it alone, leveraging the experiences of others. You can see the confidence score on the lower left of your screen. And this is a unique capability that Sumo provides to its security customers, where we're analyzing continuously with supervised machine learning how the vast majority of our security customers are resolving alerts and insights. right? We're also looking at your individual history of how you're resolving insights. And then we're applying models to that and computing a likelihood using these algorithms that the individual insight that we've surfaced, how likely is it that it's a true positive as opposed to a false positive, right? And that's critical, obviously, for those of you security practitioners know that's the big war, is to how to spend your energy on the signal and not get distracted by the noise. This system, now it's been in market for over a year, it continues to get better and better and more accurate as more insight types come into the experience and data training set. And as the number of customers and the amount of data it trains on, increases over time. So this would be a way for you to get confidence. Yes, in fact, this is highly likely to be a true positive. So at that point in the workflow, then the analyst would say, okay, I know now I have a vulnerability. I mean, there's risk of exfiltration that is immediate. I need to take decisive action. So now comes our cloud SOAR technology. Tej alluded to the acquisition now a year in of DF Labs. Now I can go to a predefined list of playbooks that automate the types of actions that I might need to take. In this case, it's disable an AWS user. And then if you kind of keep going down that path, recognize that this may not just be one account, right? This now that you've identified one account that's been compromised, maybe from that same external IP address, there are other accounts. You need to sort of get into a war room type mentality. And so we've replicated that inside of our cloud SOAR to give you that place in the virtual world to bring together all the artifacts and information and let people collaborate in order to identify, hey, was this a systemic attack? And what are all the related accounts that I might need to take action on? And then in the after action, you might think, okay, now that I realize we have this vulnerability in the AWS Lambda for serverless and how many different applications that touches, what about the similar services in the other two clouds, GCP, Azure? And then what about looking at a set of accounts more systemically that might have been exposed to classes of IP addresses that are related to the one that was convicted? So this just gives you kind of an idea from soup to nuts of how you would leverage Sumo Logic. Not just in the context of like a core security analyst walking through from a SOC perspective, but also kind of in this merge of the observability people who need to collaborate often with the security people to run one of these use cases to ground. So at this stage, we're going to shift gears to some sneak peeks. We'll talk about 4 different capabilities which are entering into beta over the course of the next several months, leading up to the end of the year. In many of these, if you're interested to know more, get in touch with us after. We can arrange kind of deeper dive demos, and also in many cases would still love to get your customer input on these as we're making kind of design choices, particularly around the way some of this information is rendered in the UI. So first up, big step for us as a platform, right? We're taking the first steps towards starting to unify the navigation of how you interact with all the different capabilities in the platform, right? I've talked a lot about the security capabilities. Bruno talked about the observability capabilities. But in the end, what we want is a more efficient and seamless workflow that lets you pivot between these services and capabilities. Because in the end, that's the workflow that you go through in making your environment both reliable and secure. So you can see not the familiar look with the tabs across the top, but you can see the structured and the hierarchical capability menus now over to the left that will start to make this a lot more seamless. So you give us great feedback on how we've broadened the security portfolio. SOAR is terrific. Full stack SIEM is awesome. Cloud monitoring and analytics as the foundation along with search, great. But you've also said, hey, I want a more seamless way to kind of go from one end through the other in my use case instead of having to go out and back in. And so this is the first step in that process. Still taking user input. There are a few seats left on that bus. So for those of you that are interested, please get in touch with your account teams and you can scrub into the last kind of phase of design in this area. Super excited about this. And this is the beginning of the journey, not the end, right? We're going to go down deeper in terms of look and feel and workflow and one-click hops across and the like. But our first big step is really exciting in trying to make this a more seamless experience for you to consume our technology. Second, entity graphs. And for those of you that have some experience here, this is a super trivial example of a graph just for the purposes so you can see it. But this is a critical part of our system that helps you identify relationships that are important in security investigations and that are actually fed back in behind the scenes into detection as well. But this is a way to make the technology, back to that theme at the beginning, more consumable, right? Particularly for analysts who may not have as sophisticated capability in terms of quick analysis of looking at list or scripting and the like. So this is another one where we're taking user input on how best to trade off with the usual thing with graphs about density and zoom and all of that. So if you're interested in that, please get in touch with us. Also going into to beta in the fall timeframe. Third, this is another one of these first steps in a much bigger journey for us. You're seeing entity timelines there. And what you're seeing in the middle of the screen is just for any given entity, whether that's an instance ID or a user, a machine, what have you, you're starting to see with a click everything in the timeline that related to that activity. May not be suspicious, but you're also seeing all of the threats that have been flagged with the associated activity all laid out in the storyboard type format. And this is going to be the first of several steps that we go through to make our anomaly detection analytics much more consumable. All right, you've given us feedback that you love the capabilities, the things we can do in things like user behavior analytics, but you want it to be more consumable. And this is the first big step along that journey. Stay tuned, there's more to come here, but we're super excited about finally getting to this first step. And then the fourth of the sneak peeks here, large-scale automated enrichment. This is probably needs some marketing help. This is exciting for us because this is the first time we've taken a core component of our new cloud SOAR based on the DF Labs acquisition, and we've created a platform service out of it that can be taken advantage of by other capabilities. In this case, you're seeing Cloud SIEM Enterprise is now really turbocharged its enrichment capability by leveraging this service in the back end. Right? Without some of the manual steps in the scripting that were required previously, now it's completely automated, open integration framework. There's a huge library available out of the box. You can create new ones in days as opposed to previously, longer time cycles. So just an example of that platform mentality where, our vision is not a collection of products. Our vision is one unified integrated platform, as you're starting to see from these betas that I've just gone through. Really excited about this. More to come on leveraging components of automation across the portfolio, including in the non-security areas as well. Last topic for this section. Now we'll talk a little bit directly about the next layer down and this new threat surface that Tej alluded to now you're building these applications natively in the cloud, you're running the business on them as part of digital transformation, creating digital experiences. And so it leads to some fundamental security questions about this threat surface. If you want to answer the question, like, is this app secure or how secure is it? It's a fairly new and rapidly evolving set of systems that you have to synthesize output from, right? This is everything from code scanning in the build phase to posture management in the deploy phase, to platform cloud workload protection in the run phase, right? So all across that application lifecycle. And these systems are not easy to interpret. Oftentimes you have to go to different personas and people who are experts in them, even though their job title might be the same, might be in different sections of the DevOps organization, for example. And so that's one problem that's on our mind is how can our platform, which is kind of ideally ambidextrous between observability and security, how can we add value in that process? And we're doing this with many of you already, but how can we next level that value that we add, helping you, whether it's in a pure security context or this kind of hybrid security observability context. And then if we lens out even one layer, you can imagine that in many enterprises, there'll be many of these different apps that are built. They'll be in different business units, different engineering teams. And so then the question comes up, how do I coordinate all of this? How do I leverage best practices, ensure compliance, really have a coherent defense for the enterprise? And that's where this notion of really building the bridge between the core SecOps central hub team and all of these different distributed teams that are building these applications and protecting them. Many of you have done progressive things in your orgs, cross-fertilizing, people that go from the core SOC out to the line of business in a security engineering role defending an app and the like. And so our platform is often used as that bridge that helps these communities collaborate and share, learn to work together, transfer knowledge, and efficiently, make sure that your app is both reliable and secure. So we know that based on this initial work that we've done in many of your environments, that there's a lot more we can do, right? So that on the left side just summarizes what I mentioned about the types of things we do today. We're constantly innovating and generating more out-of-the-box content. Bruno alluded to some of this to cover security use cases. We can obviously do this. Is it a security or reliability type set of use cases very efficiently and in the Sumo platform. But on the right, this is kind of what's on our mind as we look a little bit ahead in terms of investments and innovation. Bruno talked about the entity model in the last section. So we think there's a way to take that initial work and really converge it with a lot of the entity work that's being done in our streaming correlation engine, in our Cloud SIM, add context, add state, increase the scope of what can be considered an entity, and then how we can then attach relationships to that, not just for visibility in investigation, but also for core alerting and detection. So stay tuned for that. That's a little bit, for those of you that are into more of the under the hood type of thing, but we'll be engaging with many of you as we go down the process of puzzling through all the design changes there. And then also from a schema perspective, so for the security-oriented folks in the audience, we have a schema that normalizes all the incoming data to really facilitate the security analytics and streaming analytics that we do on it to create signals and insights as we've talked about. But expanding that so that in that tool chain from build to deploy to run, we can actually bring together in one place the outputs of all these systems, risk rank them, look at correlations and insights that can only be seen by combining all of them together, but do it in a consistent model that makes it consumable for you and not dependent on vendor-specific integrations. That's going to be a big source of discovery and research for us in the next couple of months and probably get into development early next year. And then as we talked about, this is for us a journey where we're constantly taking input on your high priority use cases and then converting that into both out-of-the-box content as well as analytics training models to help you with this new set of use cases. Because in the end, we think there should be a unified model for security in the enterprise that really subsumes all of the application-oriented threat surfaces that we've talked about, making digital experiences secure, with all of the core enterprise-wide security that has been built up over the years in SecOps. And we think being able to interconnect that and bridge observability and security it's our vision, to help you with that tough meta problem of making your digital experiences both reliable and secure. So key takeaways, I think you've gotten the sense, especially some of you in the audience that have been with us for a while, about the breadth and depth that we've now created in our security portfolio. We can really help you anywhere you are in the maturity life cycle, and we can come at it, as we've talked about it again and again, from either the kind of observability side of things or the security side of things or both, in that kind of sense of like we need to be deep for the individual domain, but really the future is the convergence of the two. And we talked, I think, a good bit about what's on our mind as we think about innovation and the next wave of what we can do with this application threat surface area and the role that Sumo can play at the center of helping make your digital experiences secure. Now I'll ask Tej and Bruno to rejoin me on stage for the close.
Hey, Sumo community, thank you very much for your time. I urge you to start using our observability and security products together. Thank you.
I want to thank you for being here with us today. I really want to thank our long-term customers who have accompanied us on this 12-year journey. And I look forward to seeing you in person next time.
And I've only been here on half of the journey with Bruno, but I really encourage all of you to take advantage of the content that we've put together as a part of this show and just engage with our teams. We're here to help. We're here to partner with you as we tackle the challenge of making our digital experiences secure and reliable.
Okay, I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. Reminder, go and work on your on-demand content or jump into a certification or expert session. Make the most out of the content that's available across the community. And don't forget to go to one of the best sessions at every Illuminate, and that's from our co-founder, Christian. His session's available right now. Go check it out. Thanks.